Okay, going back.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to BFC versus OTS. As you can see, the stream sort of started earlier on, but due to some technical difficulties, we had to miss out on some of the champ select, but a lot of it has already sort of passed on very, very quickly as we see Kaisa, Sat, and Zach being banned on side of BFC, and OTS banning out the Veigar, the Yone, and the Yasuo. And Wukong first pick, and response was Victor and Thrash. By the way, I am Mo's the Tool, and with me here, I've listened to the beat.
Pleasure to be here. We are seeing that BFC did leave off the Victor, which is Wild's pocket pick. Actually, what's the name of his? It's Nikolai's pocket pick. Sorry, I had to remind myself which account he was on. Yeah, so which is quite interesting, admittedly, as that is his best pick for the mid lane. So I'm curious to see why they left it up for him. Do they have a counter pick in store on the side of BFC to deal with that Victor, or was it just something that they forgot in order to ban? We do see that they did draft the Wukong, Ezreal, and Yuumi, which shows that they do want to play extremely safe bot lane, as Ezreal Yuumi is probably one of the safest out of all the combinations, and then Wukong an extremely aggressive top side pick for the early game. So I do expect that we may see a lot of plays around the top side specifically, as Wukong is able to follow up on those ganks effectively in the early game and push out and snowball those leads.
Absolutely. And one thing to note here is that Ezreal Yuumi is a very, very safe lane. Like, that's a lane you typically don't usually engage with, whereas the Wukong screams engaged. Like, he's probably the best late game champion to start out those fights. So it's kind of if we're just looking at both of these comps as the first three champions, it looks to me like OTS sort of got more of what they want. As you mentioned, we do see that Victor coming out on the side of OTS, and then BFC's team comp so far seems to be lacking a clear direction in my mind, because again, a lot of engage from the top side, but a lot of disengage from the bot side. This could potentially work out if they have something where they have even more engage, and presumably the Yuumi is just trying to keep anybody safe who gets caught out. But that is something to note here, as we see the Seraphine ban first from OTS, then a Jarvan ban on the side of BFC. They clearly don't want to play against OTS's Jarvan, and then the Diana ban coming in through as well. So BFC not picking up their mid laner in the first rotation means I think that those are both mid lane bans. I think the Diana is targeted towards their mid laner as well. So the mid lane here may get a little pinched, because on OTS's side, we do already have the Victor. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, OTS already banned 3 other mid laners. So it's a lot of mid laner bans already. And they just had 2 more on top of that. So we'll see what happens for BFC's mid lane pick here, as Olaf is picked on OTS's side going into the jungle.
I'm really interested to see that they did end up hard banning out, I believe it's Asian Invasion's mid lane picks against Victor. I mean, the Diana pick does make sense, as you can push a lot of early game aggression against Victor. Just being able to jump in constantly is kind of detrimental to the very early stages of Victor, so it may prevent him from scaling, which I think was actually a really smart idea. Being able to let Nikolai be able to go throughout, survive throughout the early game to get into the late game is, I think, probably their best move. We are seeing a little bit of with Jinx, Victor both being really strong late game picks, mid to late game picks, and then Olaf, which is a very early game pick. So I believe we're going to see Olaf trying to push out those leads for the bot and mid lane. We do see that BFC does pick up the Evelyn, which is an interesting pick. It is admittedly usually straight away from in team play, because Evelyn does tend to be more of a selfish pick, because there is a lot of early game farming that's required so that she's like relevant later on for her to hit 6. Yeah. Which admittedly may have put some holes in the early game for BFC, but if they're able to overcome that, they will have a really strong one shot on the side of Evelyn that could take out both Victor and Jinx, which are so far their biggest points of damage from OTS. So it's really how Evelyn is able to play out the early game and maintain leads with the lanes.
Yeah, so one really quick thing to note here is BFC's only line of engage is the Wukong. Like, you kind of have some poke coming in from Vel'Koz and Ezreal, but your main engager here is the Wukong as OTS picks up Malphite. So one thing that I'm sort of not a fan of on both of these team comps is that we have the 5 versus 5 like clearly mapped out in front of us, and the Victor and Jinx were picked, but there isn't really a lot of peel outside of Thresh for the Jinx. And so it is sort of a game where OTS needs to sort of watch out for their carries and make sure that they engage fights on their terms because they don't have that disengage. Whereas BFC has that disengage for their bot lane, but they also sort of have a poke comp with like a pig comp with like a team fight comp, sort of like hybrid that like I'm not sure that there's a clear direction for BFC's team comp. So there are clearly weak points in both of these drafts, but I think that they're both very, very comparable in terms of late game scaling. Obviously, Jinx is the hyper carry, but BFC's comp is nothing to sneeze at either in the late game.
I believe that actually, I think Thresh, in order to peel off, should be more than enough when it comes to limited, because keep in mind, Evelyn's probably going to be setting up her charms, right? And once the charm does proc, you do have an idea about where Evelyn is. So if Thresh is just standing on top of their own lane or standing right next to them, they more times than not could get a good hook in because you'll know where to aim it, or it can get a good flay in. So I think Thresh should be enough in order to deal with the Evelyn specifically. But if Vel'Koz does get ahead, that could be a little bit detrimental to them if OTS's positioning in team fights is off. I guess BFC also has a little bit of a weakness when it comes to that they don't really have that a good tank in there to be able to frontline, which I guess makes it that Jinx doesn't really have anyone specifically that she can shred down other than maybe Wukong being the closest thing to a tank that BFC does have. But yeah, I mean, both team comps, I feel like for team comps overall, I am slightly favored towards OTS's personally. I feel like their team comp is just more well-rounded and a little bit easier to execute when it comes to comparison to BaeDCarry fan clubs. I feel like theirs is just going to be like very reliant on them just all just like popping off. And I mean, if they're able to get that, then the snowball potential that their comp does have is quite large with the Evelyn and the Wukong especially.
Yeah, I would have preferred, I think I would be 100% a fan of OTS's team comp if instead of the Thresh they had picked something like a Lulu, because both Jinx and Olaf do really, really well with a Lulu. So because that's a lot of protection, it's a lot of speed that neither of those people have. So it would have been like really, really great, like, or maybe like another shielding support, but something like that. But I agree, Thresh should be enough peel for Jinx as long as Vel'Koz doesn't pop off and just snipes Jinx from like across the map. So it is one thing to keep in mind that Thresh is very, very position reliant. So if Thresh, if Malphite isn't there, Thresh is literally the one engaging these fights. So if he suddenly goes in and Jinx gets caught out from the back through the flanks by an Evelyn or something like a Vel'Koz just sniping her from weird angles, then it is something that OTS needs to, keep in mind. But I think I still 100% agree that OTS's comp is easier to play and it's easier to manage. Like especially with the Malphite, you have like a clear engage into their front line or even their back line, and then Jinx is just there to destroy all of BFC's team, except maybe Wukong because he can be a little tricky. But even with enough damage, Wukong should theoretically go down. So, and BFC's team comp, it's definitely more difficult to play because on the side of Evelyn, it's not a very, I think it's a strong pick for sure, but it has ridiculous fall off potential. I think Olaf in a game like this is probably a little bit stronger, but we'll see how early game goes. As we do have a very, very safe bot lane on the side of BFC as well. So perhaps that Evelyn's going to be going top or mid. Yeah, sure, we can pause. We will be having a quick pause. See you guys in a bit. Wow, thanks for the warning, enemy. But hey, we're back. We're back as the game is starting, and we see rainbows on the side of OTS. I believe that's a skin. I don't remember exactly whose it is. It looks like it's Malphite's.
It's not a skin. It's actually when you have the icon for with the
Pride.
Pride event. Yeah, it does come off with the different rainbows depending on which flag you have as your icon. We are seeing them go in, but there is already they first bought a control ward in order to get the tri brush. Interesting buy with the Yin.
And wait a minute, Vel'Koz is in a very bad spot.
Can get pinched very easily here. Also, just to check, what time are you currently at? Just to make sure we're synced up.
We are at 104, 105, 106.
You are ahead of me. I'm gonna quickly speed up and
112, 113, 114, 115.
okay, yeah, I'm out of trouble. Okay, yeah, but we do see the first blood already coming out onto the Victor against the Vel'Koz very early, which having BFC's team comp being very much centered around the Vel'Koz doing well, I feel like is their most like consistent line for their win con is kind of troubling to see when it comes to BFC side, because we are seeing that it seems that the Victor is very confident already picking up Dark Seal off of that gold that he got from that back.
Exactly, and even if the Dark Seal ends up going absolutely nowhere, you still have the Dark Seal passive, and we coming into a pause, so I think somebody lagged out.
Yeah,
but
it seems that the jungler from the side of BFC did lag out, so we're briefly going to pause for Evelyn to reconnect.
yeah, but we do see the Dark Seal on the side of Victor, and like the thing to note about that is that I believe it still gives a little. So I'm hovering over it right now. It says it's giving 15 ability power and 40 health. So usually your best bet with Dark Seal is if you can even get like 4 stacks on it, it's basically paid for itself at that point, and you can do whatever with it after that. You can sell it if you don't think you're going to go anywhere else from it, or you can upgrade it into a Magi's. But yeah, it is definitely not a good start for BFC as OTS picks up that kill. So essentially, what happened was I'm not sure if you saw this, but I believe it was BFC who, or sorry, it was OTS who went for an invade on their bot side. They went through their own jungle, through their blue side jungle into the river and down towards bot lane. And then Vel'Koz saw nobody as he was scouting, and it was like, oh, maybe I can get a very greedy deep warden. And he was very much punished for his greed.
He also
And
did not use either of his summoner spells, having both his barrier and flash up. And I believe from where he died, he could have used either to survive. So a little bit greedy when it comes to the side of BFC, trying to hold on to them, thinking that they can survive, trying to go for those deep wards, and they do get punished for it by the side of OTS.
yeah, and I think the only reason the kill even happened was because Victor flashed to make sure that he got the Vel'Koz before he executed under turret. So if Vel'Koz had instead flashed first, or if they had both flashed at the same time, they would have both just burned flash, and Vel'Koz would have just gotten executed. I think there are a few different ways to play that, and well, the most obvious one would be just don't do that. But I think he could have. I think to really seal the deal, he should have been able to predict the Victor flash into Q, and didn't end up doing so, and ended up paying for it. As I believe we see Evelyn coming back online, so maybe you will see an unpause coming through shortly.
Yeah. When it comes to the top lane matchup, actually just the matchups in general, what do you see them individually going in laning phase? And it seems that we aren't going to be resuming the game as the top is AFK as well. So we are going to wait a little bit for them to also get back online.
Yeah, so one thing to notice top lane is Zealot, like I mentioned him earlier, like he's very much a solid force, especially on that Malphite, and he went for a flask. I don't remember exactly. I think it's Corrupting Potion. And then Wukong goes for the Doran's Shield. So Malphite here will have a lot more sustain for the earlier parts of this game. Wukong kind of does with his passive, but he really needs to be able to stack that up. I think in general, Malphite will win against a Wukong, regardless of how well the Wukong is played, as long as Zealot manages his shield really well and he makes sure that he's getting his poke onto the correct Wukong. So Wukong isn't like Wing him, and then Malphite decides it's a good idea to go right into that. So as long as that isn't happening too much, it should be a very, very easy lane for Malphite. Wukong just wants to sort of stick in here and play for teleports, and sort of get out of laning phase as soon as possible. He's not going to win against a Zealot, but he shouldn't lose very hard either. There isn't a major kill threat until level 6. So unless junglers do something, it should be a fairly quiet lane with maybe not many kills. A decent amount of poke is what I would imagine. And then on the side of mid lane, we obviously know where that's going for the time being. So
Yeah, I believe that the jungler on the side of BFC disconnected yet again after reconnecting. So it seems that he is having a lot of internet difficulties. So we may need to wait a bit before we can jump back into the game. Sorry to everybody in the Twitch chat, but we will try to get this game started up ASAP. We are seeing the early game take of tier from the Ezreal. So what are your thoughts about the tier pick? I'll taking that over maybe like a D Blade or what are your thoughts
yeah,
on the tier pick?
so I think that just screams that your jungler is going top side. Like
Yeah,
if Evelyn wastes any time bot lane, it will probably be for nothing because um uh, like we already were talking a little bit about bot lane earlier and how Thresh is going to be appealing for Jinx a little bit. Um, if Ezreal doesn't have damage even from his Dorn's Blade and he just wants to stack up his mana, then that means that there is even less of a kill threat. Yumi is already like a basically very, very low kill threat champion, and that like Ezreal going tier just screams to me that they want to play this as a very, very, very passive lane. And so if Evelyn ever does gank bot lane, I would expect that to happen maybe around level 6. I don't think that that's going to be happening anytime soon. Evelyn definitely wants to get her Wukong ahead and make sure that Zealot doesn't become that unstoppable force that we were talking about earlier. For now, transitioning into mid game, I'd say like since because Ezreal gets that like easy head start on his Manamoon, he'll have a better time poking. So definitely better for the mid game, but not the best for the early game. Although it shouldn't matter because there's not a lot of kill threat on the side of OTS either.
yeah. Admittedly, I feel like the tier pick wasn't necessarily what they should have gone for. I feel like I mean, it makes sense. I mean, tier on Ezreal, safe pick, safe item for the to go into the late game. Just getting that mana to try to get to that point. And it'll be, I don't know. I feel like it does show a little bit of. I feel like if they just properly position when it comes to the Thresh, they should be fine. With like maybe like to try to play a little bit more aggressive. I feel like they really do need to push out their leads in the early game from the side of BFC. So I would have looked towards more of like a D Blade personally. I mean, if they don't feel like playing it, it's understandable. There is a little bit more scaling when safer scaling when it comes. But I feel like they should be trying to snow out their leads a little bit more, especially when they have a Wukong in the top lane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there.
we're going to quickly go on to a pause as we believe that the OTS versus BFC pause is gonna go on for a bit. So we will catch up in just a few minutes. Dark Steel on the side of on the top lane. Wukong and Malphite going sort of head to head as my stream freezes for some reason.
It is. Yeah, it's freezing up a little, but that's okay. So
227,
Yep,
228. Yeah.
they were lined up.
And we
Okay.
see a bot lane fight.
Yumi is off and is going to fall victim. Oh, down because she was ignited, so she couldn't hop back on. I believe Ezreal may fall victim. Oh, the flash flay does secure the kill onto the Ezreal. One kill goes to Jinx and the other goes to Thresh, flashing the mastery.
That was
confidence.
a very, very explosive bot lane start on the side of OTS. And that is actually massive because your Yumi Ezreal is your safest lane, like I have been saying for like the longest time now. So it shouldn't really be dying as quickly as that. And I think what happened was OTS was just able to get the surprise level 2 on them, and it just ended up working out in OTS's favor. So already a pretty sizable goal lead, like over 1,500 on the side of OTS, and already BFC looking like they're struggling quite a bit as we see Vel'Koz laying a bit of poke on Olaf and Malphite running low on mana, doing typical Malphite things.
We do see that in regards to the bot lane, Jinx does cash in on 2 control wards. Admittedly, I think that's a pretty good thing. It's kind of like a preemptive buy in order to deal with Evelynn, as control wards are really the only way you can ward against Evelynn post 6. So it's kind of a preemptive setup for that. So I feel like stocking up on those control wards was a really smart play by Red Panda. We are seeing that there is a gank in the top lane. Amphipod is running down the Wukong. They are slowing him down with the Malphite Q, but not able to secure the kill. Amphi does take a few tower shots and most likely he actually could go back to farming with his life, so they did get off his W. We are seeing in the bot lane a bit of a trade going on. Ezreal is playing extremely aggressive. They drop it. Oh, Thresh misses the hook, healing off, and I believe that they will be able to get out.
I think you're a bit delayed. I'm at 442, 443.
I am delayed. Yes, I will try to speed up. Sorry about
446, 447, 448, 449, 450.
Yeah, it should be. The stream is lagging a bit back and forth. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, but so far, OTS has been able to secure the lead. They could have fallen victim by that early aggression, that aggression that was just displayed by the Ezreal Yumi. However, does not result in any kills.
Yeah, and I believe that the flash went down in that little exchange as well. So
Mhm.
this does open up some ganks. Maybe, perhaps, we'll see the Olaf or Evelyn go down there, but neither of them have a ton of CC. And top
We are seeing
lane
a trade in
going
the
very
bot lane.
aggressive.
The Malphite is going down, trying to secure the kill onto the Wukong. Will be able to get it. Will the Cube come up in time? Actually, oh, and he's able to secure the kill. It ends up being a 1-for-1 with the tower finishing off the Malphite. What do you think about that? Do you think the 1-for-1 was worth it for the Malphite, or do you think he should have let it go?
I think that Malphite is sort of trying to flex his muscles as we see Evelyn getting somewhat caught out here by the Olaf. No major counter jungling happening. But yeah, so I think that it's okay for the Malphite to sort of suicide there because we do see Malphite sort of already struggling with
Mhm.
his creep score. Um, and it doesn't seem like what I predicted was true, actually. So the Wukong is slightly winning that lane for the time being. And so trading there is probably in Malphite's best interest. So I respect the play. Now it really depends on what happens with the wave. So far, it looks like there is somewhat of a freeze going on the side of Malphite as Olaf picks up a dragon. So that is going to be a very, very crucial thing because we already see OTS somewhat
Mhm.
snowballing. And if they're able to keep up this pressure on bot lane and mid lane, then it is definitely going to be a very, very easy win for them. But
Mhm. We are seeing at the moment a bit of a trade in the top lane. Wukong is trying to get the kill, drops the R. Oh, but Malphite does use his R in order to escape, choosing to play a little bit more conservatively for this lane, a little bit contradictory to his earlier tower, 1-for-1 tower dive. We are seeing Wukong go back in. Oh, getting Malphite extremely low. One more EQ may be able to
yeah,
secure the kill on to the Wukong.
absolutely. But Malphite should have enough poke to where he is like not at all worrying about what Wukong is doing. So it will take him a few more of those little rolly things. I believe they're his Q or maybe his W.
It's his
Um,
E SQ.
oh, it's his E.
The roll?
Yeah,
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 it's
yeah. It's his Q.
Yeah, E's a ground slam where he like just taps the ground a little bit, and then W is where he has the
Got it.
empowered autos with like the cone.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah. So he needs to hit a few more of his Qs, and we do see the Wukong realizing that, hey, if I stay in lane, I'm gonna die. So he goes down towards the river, and we see him being collapsed on by Olaf and Malphite here.
Wukong is getting slowed down. He does try to go for the W fake where you press S in order to stop walking. However, he still falls down as they do end up finishing him off. Uh, Admittedly, when it came to when it came to the tower dive, at least for me personally, I felt like it was more in Wukong's favor. Wukong is able to snowball leads significantly better than Malphite is as a champion. Just because of their individual kits. Malphite in the late game does end up being kind of just a utility champion, so KDA isn't too big when it comes to him. However, Malphite is pushing out the lane, pushing out the leads that he is securing with his jungler. So they are making good usage off of the early gold that they do get, make himself more difficult to kill, and with the pickup of the steel caps, we are seeing that a lot of them are actually sitting on a lot of gold at the moment. We see that, so yeah, we should be seeing some backs sometime soon. Three of the champions on the side of OTS do have about 1,000 gold. Malphite actually cashing in right now, and we are seeing three champions on the side of uh, the BaeDCarry fan club also on a lot of gold. We are seeing a fight in the mid lane on Nikolai. Will he be able to survive? No, he will not. Kill does go onto the Vel'Koz. Those early kills on Vel'Koz are pretty big, and also that does take out the any potential Dark Seal stacks he could he could have potentially gotten if he ended up getting a kill
Hey,
afterwards.
really quick, I think you're still a little
Am I
behind
still?
the stream. Yeah, it's
Oh my god.
9:57, 9:58,
Yep, I am quite far
9:59.
behind. It keeps on lagging behind. I apologize for that.
Yeah, yeah, no worries, no worries. I'll keep 07, 08, 09,
Okay.
010, or 10, sorry,
I
11,
should be
12.
lined up now. I'm so sorry for that. Keeps on lagging
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
a little
no
bit.
worries, no worries.
We are seeing maybe Olaf is hovering on the bot lane, maybe looking for a gank. Malphite continues to poke out the Wukong with his Qs. Extremely, he can bully out that lane extremely hard with that.
Yeah, and I've actually, like, back back in my day, in maybe season 5, I was a, never mind.
Oh, we are seeing a potential kill on the top lane for the Malphite. Will is RB able to let him survive? Actually, it seems that he's able to. Oh, he's going back in. Will he be able to secure the kill here?
Seems like the answer to that is no, as
Oh, Wukong does end up securing the kill onto the Malphite. Unfortunate for him. Sorry, a little bit of lag spiking up again.
11:07, 11:08,
Yep.
11:09.
Okay, it should be caught up now. Sorry.
Yeah,
I
no
just
worries. No worries.
keep on zooming it back up. We do see
Yeah.
Jinx are trying to finish them off. However, it does not hit, unfortunately for them. So yeah, what type of, I guess, jungle pathing do you expect to see in the upcoming minutes? Do you want Olaf to be pushing out the leads in the lanes that they're able to secure, or do you think he should be more objective focused? What do you think he should be playing around right now?
Honestly, I
You're
think,
seeing in the mid lane.
yeah,
Oh,
I think,
he already secured the kill.
yeah, I think you're behind again.
Again, yeah, it does lag for like 10 seconds at a time, so I apologize.
Yeah, I'm at 11:52 now, 11:53, 11:54, 11:55. Yeah, and to sort of answer that question of what should the Olaf be doing right now, whether it's clearing waves or whether it's securing objectives, to quote a very well-known Hispanic commercial, "Porque no los dos?" That is definitely what OTS is doing right now. They have 2 dragons. They already got the Rift Herald. I believe they dropped it earlier in the game. And off of that pick mid lane, Olaf was able to get that second Drake. So Olaf is definitely a good champion in that he wants to sort of mind his own business, farm up, and then just kind of show up for team fights. He isn't like a huge engage champion. He is pretty good though at catching very immobile champions like the Vel'Koz. And so they quickly capitalize on that fact, and Vel'Koz had gone down. And so, yeah, Olaf just needs to farm a little bit and then maybe see what is going on top lane, because the goal lead, I think, or sorry, the creep score is still very much in favor of the Wukong. The goal lead not too far away between these two champions, but there is a win condition that is still on the table for BFC. It is very much the Wukong. So Olaf throwing some weight in the top side.
We are seeing
faking
fight against the Olaf at the moment. Will he be able to secure a kill? What will happen? I believe we saw Malphite drop his R. Evelyn is here to help out. Will Wukong fall down? Actually, no, they are able to secure the kill onto the Malphite with the Evelyn R. And as well, we did get another kill on the Vel'Koz for the side of OTS. Getting that kill onto Victor at this point is extremely helpful for them, especially considering he does have his Dark Steel. He is getting his stacks. He's currently at 5 stacks though. We are seeing that they are also currently pushing bot lane. Yuumi does drop her R. Will they be able to secure a kill off of this? Yuumi does get hooked. The Thresh. Oh, and Yuumi does fall down. And Jinx drops the R. Will she be able to secure the kill? Unfortunately not. But it seems that Ezreal is staying in lane. Quite risky, admittedly.
Admittedly, yes, but I think that there's very little kill threat as long as he dodges both the W and the Thresh Q. So he is staying very far back, but it is Ezreal, so he does have the range to sort of Q these minions as they're about to die. And yeah, their bot lane doesn't have as much vision, so they decide, you know what, we need to spend some of our gold, and that is exactly what they're recalling and going to be doing. And the Berserker's creeps are being picked up by the Jinx. And so there are a few things that I want to point out. Firstly, sometimes when the first blood doesn't matter too much, like sometimes the first blood is literally all that happens, and then the other team just ends up destroying. But that's definitely not what happened here. For OTS, that first blood was very, very useful because the Vel'Koz sort of down in the pits right now, and Victor 4-1, definitely feeling very, very powerful, able to sort of use his full wave clear and clear out mid, and then he has some options available to him. But with that said, Victor was actually late to the party in the earlier top lane kerfuffle where Wukong was sort of faking out a clone, and it was a very, very good play by him where he was able to pick out the Olaf, and then I think it ended up being a 2-for-1 on the side of BFC, where BFC picked up 2 kills and only one of theirs went down. So it's definitely not the cleanest so far from OTS. As you see a game of chicken being played right now.
Wukong is able to secure the kill. Will he be able to survive? He is in a quite sticky situation. However, Victor does able to secure the kill. We do see that the Yuumi does get the kill onto the Jinx in the bot lane. Will they be able to also to pick up the Thresh? Oh, he does miss the Flux, the spell Flux, and Thresh is able to get out. Those kills that are constantly piling up for the Victor is extremely, extremely good for him right now. He may consider investing into a Medjai's, finishing off his Darksteel, as he's only been able to constantly stack up on his Darksteel. So he's been pushing out his lead very, very strong with it.
Absolutely, yeah. In this case, I think I would agree that the majority, sometimes I would actually say that even if you have like 4 or 5, maybe it may not be such a good idea to upgrade because you probably may die. But on the side of BFC, there's so very little engaged. You're really only looking at maybe like a very surprise Evelynn pick or a Wukong sort of flashing and Eing into you, that you can sort of afford to go the greedier option of the Magias. But so far, not being upgraded yet, as OTS on their 3rd dragon of the game. Is BFC even going to respond to this? It doesn't seem so. But Wukong...
A fight here. Olaf drops the R, unstoppable, running them down. Will he be able to secure the kill? Oh, he does fall for it, though. Ezreal does fall as well. Oh, just kills happening all around. It does end up... Oh, Yuumi drops the R, trying to secure the solo kill onto the Jinx. Admittedly, does not work out, as Yuumi is not the best 1v1 champion. And it seems that Yuumi is now getting run down by the Malphite. Doesn't seem to have an escape and does fall down. It is an ace for the side of OTS. Getting the 3rd dragon, and also Vel'Koz saying to leave her alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're getting the 3rd dragon, 1 away from Soul Point.
And I believe that's another turret going down for OTS. So huge, huge leads coming through. There aren't really many deaths on the side of OTS right now. So everybody definitely feeling pretty wealthy, as top lane turret is taking in response, but that's already 3 dragons on the side of OTS, and it looks it's beginning to look somewhat insurmountable. There have been bigger leads that have been surmounted, but
we're seeing a little bit of a fight in the top lane. Wukong does drop the spin jutsu. Will he be able to secure the kill? The unstoppable is dropped off, but he does not have an escape with Malphite there pinching him off, and it does not seem like... It seems like he will fall victim here to the Malphite, unfortunately. However, Evelynn is able to pick off the Olaf, and will she be also able to pick off the Malphite? The charm dropping down, and she gets the kill onto the Malphite.
Yeah, if there is any bright spot for BFC right now, it is, again, their top lane. I think that Zealot definitely, he needs to play a little bit further back. He is still, I think, somewhat competitive.
We are seeing Victor getting the kill, potentially, yes, getting the kill onto the Ezreal. He did invest in the Medjais before that, so he did get 4 stacks off of that kill. Now at 14 stacks on his Medjais. If I were BSC at this point, I'd personally try to look up to gang up on that Victor, as at the beginning of all of his skirmishes and rotations, he does seem to be by himself, so that may be a little bit of weak spot that BFC can take advantage of, because they do need to lock down, because that Medjai's, if they keep letting it stack up and get out of hand, it will seem like the game may be able to just be closed out by the lead that he does get off of those stacks.
Definitely. And it is just a very, very difficult game for BFC right now. We were talking about earlier their team comp and how I didn't really seem to have a clear direction. And it seems like that's just the story of this game for BFC, as we do see some very aggressive ward clearing happening, but no kills coming from it yet. And BFC, normally this is the point in the game where I would say this is what they need to do to come back, or this is what they need to do. But the problem is their team comp is so split up and fractured in terms of what they want to be doing. So just again, a really quick rundown of what it is. Wukong really wants to be sort of the team fight champion and wants to go in and do a lot of damage. Meanwhile, you have Evelynn and Vel'Koz, who are kind of these, pick champions. Maybe Vel'Koz a little bit more on the poke side. And then Yuumi Ezreal is just this hyper disengage poke bot lane. So it's like three different directions that this team comp is sort of being pulled in. I would say if I were BFC right now, I would definitely be looking for some picks. Again, they have very good wards in their bot lane, and they want to be, with those, getting a pick and then expanding that vision into the enemy if they do end up getting that very crucial pick. But it is a very tall order because they don't have a lot.
In the bot lane, we may potentially see, I believe that Olaf and Victor almost pinched onto the Wukong. We are seeing a fight in the mid lane. The Malphite R is dropped. Will Ezreal fall victim here as they try to chase him down? And he does fall victim. And they do get another kill onto the Yuumi with Victor, just stacking up those Medjai stacks, which is the last thing you would admittedly want to see at this point from the side of BFC, but they are constantly pushing out the leads.
Yeah, so I think that it is very unfortunate that those kills happened when they did, because I think that OTS right now is on the dragon. Alpha getting chunked very low here though by the Wukong.
Wukong is now low, getting chased down. Will they be able to secure the soul? Vel'Koz does try to steal it. Oh, extremely close. However, no dice. Thresh flays over the wall, actually, canceling the end of the R. I mean, it doesn't necessarily amount to anything, but I mean, I haven't seen that before personally.
Yeah, definitely very interesting.
We are seeing Evelynn in the mid lane trying to secure the kill onto that Victor, trying to take away those stacks he has. Wukong jumps in, goes with the Spoon Jutsu Blade. However, is still able to get out with that phase rush. But Wukong is able to secure the kill. However, he does fall victim as a result, as he does get pinched off by the Malphite and the Olaf, having to trade it off. I believe that kill was actually probably worth it from the side of BFC, because trying to take away as many stacks as possible from the Victor is what they should be looking for right now, so he doesn't get too out of hand, because he's already extremely ahead. So trying to prevent and diminish any of those effects as much as possible is probably the only sauce they have. However, we now see that OTS does have the Mountain Soul, which is pretty massive when it comes to Olaf and Malphite, and a lot of the actual the champions on the side of OTS. So that is an extremely big dragon pick for them.
Yeah, exactly. That is just so much tankiness, especially on that Malphite, maybe even on the Thresh and the Olaf as well. And it sort of, it's very difficult, because on the one hand, it's a good thing that they got that kill onto the Victor, but on the other hand, there were two people down, and they were sort of able to push down.
The Yuumi are actually dropping here, and I believe that Ezreal does fall, and probably subsequently the Yuumi as well. Both kills going onto the Victor, now making up for the stacks they did lose. Now full stacks on his Medjai's of 25. Extremely massive for Victor right now, and a massive power spike as well. They should be pushing this as far as possible. It's strange to see that Olaf actually did take the blue buff. I don't believe that. Yeah. The Victor did not have blue buff, so Olaf did end up taking it for himself. I believe that he does have big enough of a lead that the blue buff won't even be that big a deal for him at this point. It's kind of minuscule when comparing the lead he already has. So
Yeah,
putting it on the Olaf may be the right
I
call here.
think I think it's okay if the Olaf wants to take it, but you still
Yeah.
probably want to give it to the Victor. Like the Victor
Mhm.
probably isn't going to be running out of mana anytime soon, especially because he has the corrupting potion. But he will want the CDR because that
Mhm.
means more rotations off his Q. And earlier on, when he was getting dove, which is what caused him to lose some Magi stacks, he's actually back exactly where he was. So any lead that they had gotten from that was purely based off of gold. And even then, it was, I think that's been canceled out now by OTS's response to that gold. So
Mhm.
it is very very difficult right now for BFC to come out. So they sort of need to push uh, this top side jungle vision game, as we may see somebody getting caught out here. Rashford with a very aggressive flash, but doesn't end up going anywhere. There are a few cues from Malphite and Olaf going down, but nothing major yet. As BFC, as much as we have ragged on their team comp, they do have the wave clear to sort of clear out these waves quickly enough. So it doesn't seem like if you want to siege up against a team, it's going to be OTS's, or it's going to be BFC's team you want to do it against. But Baron is being started up right now, and things are going down now when Baron's already at half health, and they're going to be desperately running through the jungle.
I don't
And
believe they're going to be able to get there on time. They do
yeah,
have a Jinx and an Olaf, and Wukong does get caught out by the Thresh, and will he fall victim? He does try to spin himself away. Oh, and we do see that Evelyn almost gets almost one-shot by the Victor, just showing how much that 25 stacks on Medjez will do for him. Oh, nearly connects the hook with from the Thresh, and we are going to see them siege out with the Baron buff that they did have. No need to back at the moment. They're able to push out the lead that they were able to get from that on the towers and trying to get as much
I
as they
have a
can.
question for you.
Yeah.
What is Ezreal doing?
Good, good question, admittedly. Throughout this game, admittedly, I feel like they didn't necessarily play the Ezreal Yumi pick as
No,
much as they wanted.
no. That's besides. Like the Ezreal was bot lane, I think, for a very very aggressive. I think what he wanted to do was a split push there, and it just did not end up working out. I'm
Yeah.
very very curious to know what comms were like at that point, because we clearly saw top lane. There was a lot of action on the side of BFC. Maybe it just wasn't communicated to the Ezreal. Maybe there just wasn't being much attention being paid, but that's an inhibitor going down where you potentially want your Ezreal there. Even if he's
Mhm.
somewhat late to the fight, it's okay because he has like a decent amount of range and a gap closer. He
Mhm.
wants to be there to sort of poke out, maybe catch somebody with the red buff that he has, but it just that is a very very big misstep in my opinion
Yeah.
on the side of BFC. I'm not exactly sure what the comms were like there, so perhaps it was a comms issue,
Ezra
but
really should have been there. I mean, especially with his R. Oh, we are seeing Malphite drop his R. I'll get back to that later. Potentially catching out the Ezra and one-shotting him from this Victor. Will they be able to chase down the Evelyn and Delcause and the Yumi as well as they're trying to go for a siege here? And they do pick off the Evelyn with the Jinx R. Nice snipe from the side of from Red Panda. But yeah, like I was saying, with Ezreal, Ezreal could have been massive there. I mean, Ezreal is really good at wave clearing from a distance. I mean, it's a global R that does good damage and like does pretty big range of which does damage. So it can clear out waves pretty easily. And when they're sieging like that, you really do need that R to clear it out, get a little poke in. I mean, that could have maybe saved their inhib potentially, but he ends up, I mean, chilling balling. I mean, in this chaotic game, admittedly, I'm not. I wouldn't
yeah,
condemn him too much. I mean, you would want a little bit
admittedly,
of a vacation
yeah.
from all
Admittedly,
this.
you probably want to run away from the rest of the map, so like somewhat respectable. But I think what the strategy there was that, hey, we're gonna interrupt these recalls, so you go ahead, go bot, and like try for a miracle inhibitor. Maybe that's what the calls were like, or maybe that was his idea. Who knows? But it ends up costing them massively. And
Yeah.
it was just a very, very big misstep, in my opinion, for the call that was made. And
just like take a little bit of a notice at the builds that are currently going on. Malphite transitions from his tank build to Sunder into a death cap, which I thought was that's an interesting build. We are seeing that they're running them down now with the Elder Buff they do have. Will they be able to end off this? Wukong jumps in, but does fall down to the yeah, it seems that OTS can wrap up this game now. They do get the ace. They do have the minion wave in order to end this game. I believe that is GG when it comes down to OTS versus BFC. Dropping the TP, a little bit of BM at the end. And yeah, that does wrap up the game. GG's.
That is absolutely massive for OTS. And this was probably the game that we were going to see an upset if it were to happen. But from champion select all the way down to the last second of the Nexus being exploded, that was a very commanding win. And we have the captain of the winning team here on the side of OTS, Zealot, aka John. First of all, how does it feel to get that win under your belt?
Really, really good. I'll preface this with like the coming into this game was really unfortunate for both teams. Both teams had to have, I believe it was 2 subs for each team. Although we got to pick side selection because one of our subs was on the main roster. Really stinks that we like both full rosters couldn't play. But like I know what their team is capable of. BaeDCarry, Nightmare, Asian Invasion, all super, super good players that I respect a lot. And before this game, my girlfriend Chloe, she's a really, really good Yumi one trick. And at the time I thought we were gonna have Yoshi. And I made them a deal that Chloe could like I would offer Chloe could play for them, and I would not ban the Yumi. And like once I learned that Yoshi wasn't going to be playing, I wasn't thinking we were going to win this one. So mega props to my team. They played really, really well.
Yeah, actually, when you were looking at the draft at the beginning, what were your thoughts? Because we did have our concerns when looking at BFC's I guess direction they were going to go with their comp. What were your thoughts looking at it?
Yeah, so looking at their comp, we were really wary of the Evelyn. And honestly, like I don't know where exactly she was, like early game, because I know that they were having some internet issues. So like that even a little drop in tempo in the jungle can be really big, and that might have played a part in it. But yeah, I mean, we pretty much got the exact draft that we wanted, and we just wanted to focus on banning out Asian Invasion.
Gotcha. Well,
congrats. He's cracked.
Gotcha. Well, congrats on the win, John, and congratulations to the rest of your team on that very, very decisive win. If you were nervous at all, hopefully how well that game went, like quickly calm down your nerves. We do have a game coming up very, very shortly, so we're going to have to say goodbye to Zealot for now, and we're going to be going into a very quick break. So thank you for staying tuned.